Good day, peasants. Let us dissect the grotesque origins of Cristiano Ronaldo dos Santos Aveiro, born on the 5th of February 1985 on the island of Madeira. A thoroughly unremarkable beginning. His father was a municipal gardener and a part-time kit man. His mother, a cook. The lad started his rudimentary sporting endeavours at an amateur outfit called Andorinha, a local club where his father washed the sweaty garments of mediocre athletes. He then waddled over to Nacional before his infantile arrogance truly blossomed. Quite frankly, his academic record was appalling. Do you know what this Portuguese youth did? He was expelled from school for hurling a chair at his teacher. Absolute rubbish behaviour. A civilized creature would have simply constructed a withering, intellectually devastating insult. But no, this feral child chose furniture-based violence so he could focus on football. It is an utter disgrace that humanity rewards such boorishness. And as if the universe itself was attempting to intervene, the boy was diagnosed with a racing heart condition. Tachycardia, to be precise. Even his own cardiovascular system was desperately trying to escape the dreadful monotony of a football career. But alas, a laser surgery intervened, and the boy was soon back on the pitch, much to my profound dismay. By 1997, after a 3-day trial that cost a laughable €1,500, he was absorbed into the Sporting CP Academy in Lisbon. There, he became the first player to inexplicably participate in their under-16, under-17, under-18, B team, and first team, all within a single wretched season. The climax of this origin story arrived in August 2003. Sporting CP inaugurated their new Estadio José Alvalade with a friendly against Manchester United. Ronaldo flopped, twirled, and overstepped his way around the pitch so obnoxiously that the Manchester United players, clearly lacking any refined taste, begged their manager Sir Alex Ferguson to sign him. And so the Scottish manager forked over a ludicrous £12.24 million for a teenager. A teenager? I could purchase a lifetime supply of battered fish and chips and a pristine fleet of vintage arcade cabinets for that sum, and still have enough left over for a daily 99 cone. Now we must begrudgingly cross the Atlantic to address the other half of this insufferable duopoly, Lionel Andrés Messi, born in Rosario, Argentina in 1987. Finally, your arbitrary starting date makes an ounce of sense. He began kicking his little spherical toy at Grandoli, a local club, before joining Newell's Old Boys. His youth squad was dramatically dubbed the Machine of 87, because humans have a pathological need to assign grandiose titles to children running around in the mud. By the age of 9, the boy was already performing mindless kick-ups for gawking crowds at the stadium, a trivial parlour trick that apparently constitutes genius in your simple societies. However, nature had played a rather cruel joke on the lad. He was diagnosed with a growth hormone deficiency. He was minuscule. A tiny, fragile thing, much like a confused prawn. The medical treatment required a mere $900 a month. But did his local clubs, River Plate or Newell's Old Boys, possess the rudimentary financial competence to fund this? Of course not. Bloody hell, the sheer ineptitude of human sporting institutions is staggering. In utter desperation, his father dragged him across the ocean to Barcelona in the autumn of 2000. Carles Rexach, Barcelona's sporting director at the time, observed the boy scurrying about and decided he simply must have him. But because European football is governed by chaotic incompetence, there was a delay. Rexach, cornered in a tennis club on the 14th of December 2000, panicked. Did he procure a proper legal parchment? Did he utilize a sophisticated typewriter? No. He grabbed a literal paper napkin. A 16.5 by 16.5 centimetre flimsy, thoroughly unsanitary piece of tissue meant for wiping grease off one's chin, and scrawled a contractual agreement upon it. Absolute rubbish. A multi-million-euro sporting empire, and their foundational document is a stained napkin? Quite frankly, appalling. I wouldn't even wrap my leftover English pancakes in such a pathetic scrap of parchment, yet your species reveres it as a sacred relic. In fact, that very napkin recently sold at auction for over £760,000. You people are utterly deranged. And thus, the diminutive Argentine was enrolled in Barcelona's La Masia Academy, his medical bills paid, whilst the Portuguese chair-thrower packed his bags for the gloomy, rain-soaked streets of Manchester. In August 2003, Cristiano Ronaldo arrived in Manchester. For the first few years, his playstyle was absolute rubbish. He spent more time performing pointless step-overs and diving onto the damp turf than actually passing the ball. He was an utter nuisance to his own teammates. However, the gruff Scottish manager, Sir Alex Ferguson, somehow managed to mould this heavily gelled show pony into a functioning athlete. By 2004, he won an FA Cup, which is essentially just a glorified domestic tin pot, but humans seem to love it. Then came the period of domestic tyranny. Between 2006 and 2009, Ronaldo and Manchester United secured 3 consecutive Premier League titles. In the 2007 to 2008 season, he scored 31 league goals. Quite frankly, appalling defending from the English clubs, if you ask me. This culminated in the 2008 Champions League final in Moscow. Ronaldo scored a header, missed his penalty in the shootout like an absolute amateur, and yet still won the trophy because the opposing captain slipped in the rain. An utterly ridiculous way to win the biggest prize in Europe, but it secured Ronaldo his first Ballon d'Or and FIFA World Player of the Year award. Meanwhile, over in Spain, the diminutive Argentine was being integrated into Frank Rijkaard's Barcelona. Messi debuted in the 2004 to 2005 season, becoming the youngest goal scorer for the club at the time. They won La Liga and then the Champions League in 2005 to 2006, though the fragile little lad missed the final due to injury. Honestly, a stiff breeze could have sidelined him back then. But then came 2007. In a match against Real Madrid, the so-called El Clásico, this 19-year-old scored a hat-trick. 3 goals. The Real Madrid defence was floundering about like a hapless fish on a dock. It was a staggering display of incompetence by the defenders, but it officially announced the boy to the world. Then, the true catalyst arrived. Pep Guardiola took over Barcelona in 2008. He introduced tiki-taka, a tactical system so repetitive and mesmerizing it could put a caffeinated Stormo to sleep. Yet, it was ruthlessly effective. In the 2008 to 2009 season, Barcelona won everything. La Liga, the Copa del Rey, and they marched straight to the Champions League final in Rome. And here, peasants, is the climax of our second chapter. May 2009, the Stadio Olimpico, Manchester United versus Barcelona, Ronaldo versus Messi. The first true face-off on the grandest stage. And what happened? Barcelona dominated. The absolute highlight was the tiny Messi, who, let us recall, needed hormone injections just to reach the kitchen counter, leaping into the air to score a looping header. A header. He hung in the air with the grace of an aquatic mammal, while the United defenders simply watched in sheer bewilderment. Barcelona won 2-0. Messi secured his first Ballon d'Or, and Ronaldo was so utterly devastated and fed up with the Manchester reign that he immediately demanded a world record transfer to Real Madrid. In the summer of 2009, the Portuguese show pony packed his extensive collection of hair gel and moved to Real Madrid for a world record fee. Thus, for 9 agonizing years, these two bipeds occupied the exact same domestic ecosystem in Spain. It was the absolute zenith of human tribalism, and quite frankly, appalling to witness. Here is how the dreadful decade unfolded. We must first look at the managers who stoked the fires. We had Pep Guardiola's mesmerizing yet sleep-inducing tiki-taka at Barcelona, pitted against the chaotic dark arts of Jose Mourinho at Real Madrid. Every time these two clubs met in the so-called El Clásico, it ceased to be a football match and became a glorified bar brawl. Players diving, managers poking each other in the eye. Absolute rubbish behaviour. During this stretch, they played against each other in La Liga, the Copa del Rey, the Supercopa de España, and even a Champions League semi-final in 2011, where the diminutive Messi scurried through the entire Madrid defence to score. Then we must discuss 2012, an utterly ridiculous statistical anomaly. The Argentine, whom you recall was once the size of a confused prawn, decided to score 91 goals in a single calendar year. 91! He shattered Gerd Müller's ancient record. How is that even possible? I can only conclude that European defenders simply stopped trying. It is an utter disgrace to the art of defending. Messi collected Ballon d'Ors like they were cheap trinkets, securing 4 in a row and leaving Ronaldo fuming in his pristine mirrored hallways. But the Portuguese specimen is nothing if not stubbornly persistent. From 2013 onwards, he transformed himself from a flashy winger into a clinical, ruthless poacher. Real Madrid assembled the BBC, Bale, Benzema, Cristiano, to counter Barcelona's MSN. Messi, Suarez, Neymar. The sheer amount of money squandered on these silly acronyms is staggering. Ronaldo led Real Madrid to an unprecedented 4 Champions League titles in 5 years, including 3 consecutively under Zinedine Zidane. In the process, Ronaldo became the all-time top scorer in Champions League history and matched Messi's Ballon d'Or count at 5 apiece by 2017. Every single award ceremony was an excruciating pantomime. They would sit next to each other, forcing tight-lipped smiles while wearing increasingly ridiculous tailored suits, pretending to have immense mutual respect whilst their fan bases waged digital warfare online. By the time 2018 rolled around, they had completely obliterated every goal-scoring record in Spain. In their 9 shared seasons in La Liga, they alternated the top scorer award with monotonous regularity, boasting goal-per-game ratios that defied basic logic. Messi was the king of overall playmaking and domestic titles, while Ronaldo became the undisputed tyrant of the Champions League knockout stages. But all tedious things must come to an end. In the summer of 2018, Ronaldo, evidently bored of the Spanish sun and perhaps seeking a new audience for his abdominal flexes, abruptly transferred to Juventus in Italy. The golden era of their direct weekly rivalry was dead, leaving the Spanish league scrambling for relevance. For the longest time, watching these two on the international stage was a spectacular comedy of errors. Let us start with the Portuguese show pony. In 2004, his nation hosted the European Championship. They reached the final against Greece, a team that played football with the grace of a reversing dump truck. Naturally, Portugal lost, and young Ronaldo spent the aftermath weeping openly on the pitch. Absolute rubbish. Meanwhile, the diminutive Argentine was having his own miserable time. After winning the U20 World Cup in 2005 and an Olympic gold in 2008, glorified youth tournaments, mind you, his senior career was a tragic comedy. At the 2006 World Cup, his manager left him on the bench to watch Germany eliminate them. By 2010, the sheer incompetence of the Argentine FA led to Diego Maradona managing the squad, resulting in a hilariously chaotic 4-0 thrashing by Germany. As the years ground on, the pressure became quite frankly appalling. Ronaldo's defining moment arrived at Euro 2016. Portugal somehow limped to the final. Did Ronaldo heroically win it for them on the pitch? Of course not. He was injured in the 25th minute by a moth and a tackle, resulting in a dramatic exit via stretcher. Instead of gracefully accepting medical attention, he limped along the touchline, waving his arms and shouting instructions as if he were suddenly a tactical mastermind, completely undermining his actual manager. Portugal won 1-0, and he paraded the trophy as if he had scored a hat-trick. Oh, he later added the UEFA Nations League in 2019, a tournament so spectacularly contrived, even I cannot pretend to care about it. Over in South America, Messi's misery was turning into a full-blown soap opera. He lost the 2014 World Cup final to Germany in extra time, trudging up to collect the golden ball while looking thoroughly nauseated. Then he lost back-to-back Copa America finals to Chile on penalties in 2015 and 2016. In the latter, he actually skied his own penalty into orbit. The sheer embarrassment was so overwhelming that he sensationally retired from international football, only to sheepishly return a few months later, because human ego is an utterly predictable beast. We finally arrive at the grand narrative conclusion: the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. It was the absolute zenith of their rivalry, and frankly, a masterclass in contrasting fortunes. For Ronaldo, it was an unmitigated disaster. His ego had finally alienated his own national team manager. He was benched for the knockout stages. When Morocco eliminated Portugal in the quarter-finals, he scuttled straight down the tunnel in tears, entirely alone, completely ignoring his distraught teammates. A fittingly grim end to a tournament he spent sulking. Messi, on the other hand, had finally broken his curse by winning the Copa America in 2021 and the irrelevant Finalissima in 2022. But Qatar was his defining moment. Argentina stumbled into the final against France, nearly bottled a 2-0 lead, and won on penalties. To cap off this absurd theatrical production, the hosts draped him in a see-through black robe, a bisht, before he lifted the trophy, ensuring every single historic photograph looked like he was preparing for a rather drafty bedtime. Ronaldo was lured to the Saudi Pro League by Al Nassr in early 2023, while Messi later moved to Inter Miami in the United States. We must endure the statistical autopsy. Let us look at the raw numbers as they stand now in the summer of 2026, shall we? The Portuguese show pony, Cristiano Ronaldo, has managed to amass 971 senior career goals. That includes his 450 for Real Madrid, 145 for Manchester United, 101 for Juventus, 5 for Sporting CP, and 129 for Al Nassr. On the international stage, he boasts 146 goals for Portugal. He is absolutely desperate to reach 1,000 career goals before his knees disintegrate completely. In the 2026 World Cup, despite scoring a couple of goals against the likes of Uzbekistan, his campaign ended in the round of 16, shut out by Spain. He was left wandering the pitch, presumably calculating how many more friendly matches he needs to schedule against part-time plumbers to pad his stats. Then we have the Argentine, Lionel Messi. As of 2026, he has tallied 919 career goals, but he pairs that with 416 assists in 1,161 games, proving that he occasionally remembers he has teammates. While playing in the MLS retirement home, he decided to turn up for the 2026 World Cup and has somehow scored 8 goals in the tournament already. He has officially broken Miroslav Klose's all-time World Cup scoring record. He lost the final to Spain. But what does it all mean? Absolutely nothing. You humans have spent the last 2 decades tearing each other apart in digital comment sections, arguing over which of these 2 bipeds is the greatest of all time. It is an utterly ridiculous debate. One is an arrogant athletic machine who treats his own body like a science experiment, and the other is a naturally gifted introvert who required a corporate entity to pay for his childhood medical bills. They are 2 halves of the same obsessive coin. The truth is, both of their legacies are tainted by their sheer inability to exit the stage with a shred of dignity. They have milked every last ounce of their talent, lingering in lesser leagues for exorbitant amounts of cash, refusing to let the next generation step forward. It is an utter disgrace. Cheerio.